people think of this one a lot, but it's true for me, is like doom scrolling or just scrolling, trying to distract myself on my phone. And one thing I noticed recently is that I get up in the morning and the first thing I did was look at my phone. And then there are lots of emails and messages. Because I live in India, overnight people from the US have been messaging, and it just like I woke up and my brain had to go full throttle, and it just wasn't healthy at all. And so something I did just recently that was really helpful is, I put my phone on airplane mode and turn the Wi-Fi off so I don't get any messages. And then I won't turn that back on until I've done my morning routine of, working out, prayer, meditation, that sort of thing, drinking a nice cup of chai. So that's been really helpful for that one.
All right, we are back with the second episode of the Kipfer Bros podcast. I'm your host, Titus, joined by my co-hosts, Tim and Joe. What's up, guys?
What's up? How's it going?
What's up?
Pretty good. Is it, Joe, I know Tim's done some podcasting. Is this the very second podcast you've ever recorded in your life?
It is. I tend to be, I'm actually branching out in life, like putting myself out there because, it's actually kind of a thing of like, man, if you have a little bit of social anxiety, like this is, wow. It's like, it's good, like personal development. Yeah.
Right. Good segue there. So
yes,
if people really rip you apart in the comments, then it's going to be devastating for you, I assume. So
no, it's actually like exposure
Joe.
therapy. It's like exposure therapy in the sense that we need rejection in order to grow, and we need to teach ourselves that we can handle it. And that's how we build that muscle.
There you go. So you heard it, folks. Go into the comment section and tear into Joe. Talk about his hairline. The nasty stuff you can come up with. That's really the only way he's going to grow personally. So there you have it.
That's right.
Wow.
Yep.
So you just bought a house, didn't you, Joe?
So we are under contract, closing September 8th. Yep.
Yes. So you are laying up treasure on earth.
Well, maybe. But it's treasure that houses my kids, and we can host guests. We can show the love of Jesus to folks who come into town. We can put them up for the night, not charge them a thing, save them the hotel fees. So, yeah.
There you go. That's what I say as well, because I'm moving to a larger house as well.
I was going to say, Titus is not the one to be judging here because he's just renting a bougie new house.
Yeah, but
boy.
I think about rent price in America, and that's what I go by. So to make myself
So what's your new house like, Titus?
It's pretty nice. It's in a they call them societies here, which is like a what do you call them in America? Gated community. Kind of loosely gated. The gate's actually never down, so you can just go into it. But kind of nice residential area, and it's a pretty new house. But yeah, India is just very affordable compared to the US, so it's nice to be able to afford it.
Cool.
Yeah,
I'll come
check
actually,
it out if you can get a visa.
It's a little, I don't know. It's been a little tough, but we shouldn't talk too publicly about that whole thing on the
right. Yeah, you wouldn't have any issue with the visa, Joe, for the record.
Nice. Sounds good.
All right. So yeah, let's just jump into this. So today we are talking about personal development. Is that the right terminology here? Is that the least cringy way to put this?
Right.
Awesome.
Yeah, we're not calling it self-help. No.
It's not self-help.
It's not self-development. It's personal development.
We don't want people to help themselves, especially not if they're from Kenya. For our Kenyan listenership, you all know what that means. Our massive following in Kenya.
Right.
But we do want people to want people to develop personally. And yeah, this is something I've been listening to a lot of blinks on, which is like these short summaries of books. So I went on a binge of personal development books when I would go on my morning run. And recently, there's a podcast I've been listening to, kind of along the same vein. Super good podcast. I forget what it's called. I should put a link to it in the show notes so people can check it out. But yeah, just thinking kind of the phase of life I'm in, and thinking about, what is it that actually brings me joy. Um, it's not often the thing that is the easiest thing to do in the moment. Um, but I find discipline like super difficult as well, which I think most people do. And so I'm trying to learn as much as I can on this topic. So let's define personal development. Like what do you guys mean when you use that term? And then let's talk about sort of our routines, things that we found to be helpful in our lives, and just kind of see where the conversation goes here. So I'll let either of you just kind of kick us off here. And what do you mean when you say personal development?
I would say like one of the better definitions I think is becoming more like Christ, more like the image bearers we were intended to be. So like theologically, we were, created in the image of God in perfection, exactly the way God, made us. He made us good. But then because of sin and the brokenness enter the world, humans became broken as well. So we kind of end up, growing into all kinds of self-destructive habits and things that we've, yeah, learned or inherited. And so we just, to varying levels, we become really broken. And I think so personal development to me is that there's not much of a clear line in my mind between like spiritual disciplines and like the secular disciplines, if there's such a thing. But like all of these things that we're doing, I think are opening ourselves up to, God's work and bringing us back to this place where He wanted us to be in the first place. So that's, yeah, my thought on that.
Yeah, so similar to spiritual formation, kind of the same idea there.
So I think that I agree with Tim in the sense that it's not something that we would separate between the spiritual side and the maybe the more traditionally, like what we would consider secular. If we are holistic people, if God cares for the whole person, then those things we don't really need to separate them. So personal development, I think, is that whole thing of it being the spiritual, the physical, the mental. So to me, when I think of personal development, I think of it in terms of growth and progress personally. So what do I need to be working on? I really like what you said, Tim, about that thing of because of the fall, we fall into a lot of self-destructive habits and patterns. And also, as we go throughout our lives, we accumulate hurts. And our natural response to that is to react poorly and develop triggers that cause pain to other people. And so we have a responsibility to continually be evaluating ourselves and asking other people to speak into our lives. What do they see that we need to be working on? What are some of those things that we need to be working on? And it can be the physical. Like if I'm way overweight, for example, that's a very common personal development goal that people have to reduce weight, to eat healthier, uh, to uh, consume less caffeine. Maybe for some people it's alcohol, whatever that is. Like it's that's personal development. And then the spiritual side, it's developing habits of prayer, connection, and even at a soul level to our creator. Um so it's not just on a spiritual level, it's certainly not just the action of prayer, getting on your knees and praying or reading your Bible, but it's also making sure that at a relational level, at a soul level, we're connecting with God. And so I think, yeah, there's that the physical. In my mind, the physical. I kind of think of it those three categories: the relational and the spiritual, or the mental. That's four, I guess. So yeah.
Yeah. And there's probably a way we can talk about this that would be helpful for people who are not Christians as well. You can
Hmm.
talk even about spiritual development. Things like meditation and prayer are helpful for anyone. So, I mean, obviously, we're going to come at it from a Christian perspective because we're all Christians, but a lot of these ideas and these habits, you can call them spiritual formation or you call them personal development. Really, we're talking about the same thing um, on some level. I don't want to I want to completely like secularize spiritual formation either, but yeah, I think we can talk about it in a way that is holistic and that would be helpful for anyone, regardless of their background.
Yeah, I think that's true. I do think one of the distinguishing things between our worldview and some of the other worldviews would be that for personal development, it doesn't really come from within. Although we have agency to like do things that will bring positive change in our life, the real change in our life doesn't come from within, but it comes from, the grace of God. So like instead of looking within to find the strength to improve myself, I'm doing all these disciplines, whether it's exercise or whether it's prayer, but I'm doing it to kind of give an opportunity for God to, as a means of God to give grace to help me improve. So I think there is a little bit of a distinction there. Like it's something that when I first got into personal development, it was around this idea of like reading the 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. Like I can be proactive. I can do something about my life. I can make changes. I'm not just stuck. I'm not just a product of my circumstances. Um, and yet it's not all about just what I do, but the choices I make do I believe allow God to work in my heart. I can either block that or I can give him an opportunity to do that. And I think prayer is giving him an opportunity. I also think exercise and just the habit of waking up, early can also be ways that allow for God's grace. So that's where I would just try not to separate between the spiritual and the physical or secular too much.
I I think that's good, Tim, and I think of it in terms um of how we've been created, and then also the tapping into the miraculous ongoing connection with God and strength and all of that endowment that comes from God on an ongoing basis when we connect with him on a spiritual level on an ongoing basis. Because you look at people, anybody has been created with the ability um, to think through ways to build healthy habits, and they might not be connecting to that spiritual source, but God created them with that ability. Even just we think of love as an example. Love is from God. I believe God is love. God is a source of love. But somebody can love who does not know God. Somebody can still love, yet God is the source, I believe, of that love. And um, so it's that thing of humans were created in the image of God. Humans were created with potential to do personal self-development. Yet God is still the source of all of that because he was our creator. But if we simply go within and into that created strength that God has given us, and that's where it ends, that's really selling ourselves short, because God wants to be involved on an ongoing basis in our lives and give us that miraculous day to day strength, connection, wisdom. And if we fail to connect to that through prayer, um, not only are we selling ourselves short of what's available to us as Christians, but we're also walking a dangerous path, actually, because the Bible says there's a way that seems right to a man, but the end thereof is the way of death, right? Like that. That is that's so true. Like we have a lot of created wisdom that God created us with, but if we simply rely on that it's a dangerous path to be walking, I think. So
Yeah, well, why don't
Curious.
we start? Go ahead, Tim.
I was just gonna say, I'm curious what you guys would say is the end goal of personal development. Like, why personal development?
start with
That's
why,
actually
right?
that's a better place to start than where I was gonna start. Yeah. Huh.
Wouldn't you say it's service to God and to others, or service to others, um and an act of worship to God when we truly lean into our potential as humans, as God created us. And okay, because you think about it, if we don't do any personal development of any kind, our impact is going to be less than it would be otherwise. Our spiritual impact, our relational impact, all of that is going to be lower, and we're not going to be able to serve other people as well as if we do that work on ourselves and we allow God to do that work on us. So, so I think it's about the why to me, I think is about serving and loving. Like I can love better. I can have better relationships. I can make a bigger difference. I can lead better if I do personal development, I think.
Yeah, that's really good. And if you zoom out even more, if you think about the biblical storyline of God creating us as his images and wanting to restore us back to the image of God. So each human um needs to be healed and restored so that we reflect the image of God well in the world. And that's what God is up to in the world. And so but that takes cooperation on our part. It's I'm not a Calvinist, um, although they would probably agree with this. It
You know,
takes
I'm
us.
not a Calvinist either, but Sammy King, if you're listening to this,
Oh
like
boy.
you're gonna say he says I am one, and
He's so
it's a
far on the
running
other
joke.
side. He's an open theist, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Um,
Can we name names on podcast? Is that okay to do?
absolutely.
Yeah, just
Okay,
kid
Tim's not
all
into
friendly.
right,
it, but it's good. It's good for listener engagement. If they hear their name on the podcast, they're gonna listen to the
fantastic.
next one. Um,
Sure.
so yeah, it takes cooperation on our part to be healed and to be restored. And then, like you said, Joe, once that begins to take place, we can more effectively serve others and they can be healed. And this is what God is doing in the world. He's making the universe right. And so I think it's really just participating with what is the ultimate goal of God and of his work in the universe, which is people living
Mm.
well and then we experience joy. When you first asked that, Tim, I was like, well, it makes me happier. But I was like, that's not great, but it is true. It's like, why is it that when we are living in a healthy way and have healthy habits, we're happier? Well, it's because we're living the way we were designed to, and that brings joy. And so I don't think that's a bad motivation either. We all do what makes us happy, but some of us think things that will make us happy that in the end won't, and that's ultimately what bad habits are. Um,
Yeah,
so,
that that was one thing that I'll say yet. I maybe just being a little vulnerable. So like maybe it's different for different people, but like one of the I would say kind of negative things from my experiences like this, I feel like sometimes some phases of my life, like my desire for personal development came out of like, okay, I want to be effective, I want to be fruitful, but because, I want to be known as some, very accomplished person, people to look up to me, wow, he's a really disciplined person, he's accomplished so many things, he's succeeded in so many things. And so I think in the end that motivation is going to leave it leaves me, kind of empty in the end. It's like, okay, well, I've had some successes, but well, that was that, I don't feel that much better than I did. So like I do think what you guys said is much better, in the, in the end, like our motivations, I think continue to be purified, but like
Hmm.
it's for doing the will of being able to do the will of God. But it is a struggle, and I'll just like freely admit that I've been mixed, in the past and even probably today, struggling with that. Like, okay, why do I do this? Is it actually because I want to glorify God, or do I want to glorify myself? It's just something to think about.
Yeah, for sure. I think we all have mixed motives in everything we do, but the goal is to continually get better motives. And that's part
Yeah,
of personal
personal
development, isn't it?
development.
All
Yeah,
right.
yeah. Get better motives.
All right,
Let's
there
do
you
it.
go.
But I appreciate what you shared there, Tim. I think that's good. And I think it's also the thing that's interesting is it comes to the psychology of goals as well. Like if you're if you're really focused on the goal and you achieve it, it's like but it's can we enjoy the journey that God has us on? I think is the challenge. And for us to realize as humans that the joy is in the journey and the joy is in the process. And yes, we need those goals to reach those goals. Um, but I think, yeah, checking our motives and leaning into who God created us to be and just being faithful every day. Like, to what is God calling me to today, and how can I be faithful in that? And then, yeah, checking our hearts for the things that we need to continually put on the altar, like pride and ego. Like, these things crop up and they're so destructive. Like my ego, how many times do I have to deal with my ego? But it's in that when I can do that, and just um and also being willing to hold life with an open hand and say, um all the things that I think I'm starting to ramble now. I guess that people do that on podcasts
You
sometimes
can
too, right?
ramble.
Like,
Let them
but
know in
all
the
the things in
comments,
life.
everyone. Let them know in the comments.
Yeah, yeah. All the things in life we hang on so tightly to. But it's in that surrender to God and in that holding everything with an open hand. Can I say that on every podcast? Holding,
You're
I
just,
can throw
I
out the
mean,
open
we're
hand.
sending invoices to Open Hands for every time you say that. It's product placement.
um, but no, I think that being willing to just kind of release the things in life that we try to hang on to so tightly, and just surrender to God and say, God, it's yours, whatever that is. That's a piece of the journey, I think. And I'm not sure that feels like I'm getting off on a kind of off topic a little bit, but for me, that's been part of my journey of personal development and just my battle with like anxiety is being able to radically accept um, what whatever it is that you pray, you do your best, and then the outcome, whatever that ends up being, you accept that. So
Right. Yeah, that's good. Why don't we talk about maybe some bad habits to start with, and then we can end on a positive note. What are some things that maybe you guys have struggled with or that are common pitfalls? And what have you found helpful in overcoming those things?
And people think of this one a lot, but it's true for me, is like doom scrolling or just scrolling, trying to distract myself on my phone. And one thing I noticed recently is that I get up in the morning and the first thing I did was look at my phone. And then there are lots of emails and messages. Because I live in India, overnight people from the US have been messaging, and it just like I woke up and my brain had to go full throttle, and it just wasn't healthy at all. And so something I did just recently that was really helpful is, I put my phone on airplane mode and turn the Wi-Fi off so I don't get any messages. And then I won't turn that back on until I've done my morning routine, of, working out, prayer, meditation, that sort of thing, drinking a nice cup of chai. So that's been really helpful for that one.
Yeah, that's one for me too. And I've started charging my phone outside of my room, and it's huge because it just disconnects my brain is kind of disconnected from where a lot of kind of some of my stress comes in through my phone. And so that thing too, like I've really tried to work on that, like not checking email, WhatsApp first thing in the morning until I kind of go through my morning routine. And so that's a big one. I think another one for me is like just rumination because what you focus on grows. So I can get caught in just in my head, like where I allow like just thoughts that I've thought before to just think them again and again. But just that discipline of focusing on, I mean, it talks about it in the Bible, like focusing on whatever's true, pure, right, good report, honest. Maybe that's not one of them. Whatever all is in that verse, like it talks about focusing on those things and like what we focus on, what we give our attention grows. And so, what do I really want that to be? And so I think that's a bad habit that I'm working on.
Right. Yeah, I think the social media and the reels, I mean, it's such a cliche to talk about this, but I noticed when I came to India that this is a global thing. You can be a construction worker making $10 a day in India, and you're still on your breaks. Out comes the phone, and they're watching reels. Like this is literally everyone in the world is hooked on this stuff. Everyone.
Hmm.
And
Hmm.
there's been a lot said about it, but I wonder why, like, if people, most people agree, yeah, I'm on my phone too much. Why do we all still do it? Like, what? It's one of those things. Maybe it doesn't have immediate consequences, but there have been studies on this. Everyone kind of agrees, yeah, I shouldn't do this so much. But everyone still does it. It's almost like unhealthy eating. Everyone's like, yeah, this is unhealthy, but I had maybe that's a little different. Actually, maybe it's a good analogy because you can have some unhealthy food, but if you eat too much of it, it has huge issues for you. And so, I don't know what a healthy relationship to social media and to watching reels and all these things is like time wise, how much is okay? When is the right time to do it? Um, Tim, you shared one practical thing. I think that's super good. And Joe, you mentioned this as well. Like, don't wake up and look at your phone first thing. But what about like, in the evenings when you're super tired and you don't have much willpower left, and that's just what you want to go to? Do you guys set time limits for yourself? I know people do that on social media apps. They'll have timers, and then you can just hit ignore on an iPhone. But how do you guys handle it, like outside of just that morning issue, in evenings or other times when you're just bored and you want a quick hit of dopamine?
Yeah, like I would say that's a constant struggle because I think social media can be, and our phones, we get into those habits, and when we're stressed, we can just boom, be on Facebook, be on Instagram. And I think it's really hard to get away from those things. There's Facebook Marketplace. There's like we do find a certain amount of connection through social media. A lot of people are on social media, some are not. And if you've chosen not to be on social media, good for you. I have not taken that route. But what I think that you read Atomic Habits. I think there's something we can draw from that book on this topic, and that is that make it easy. And so you can do things like when you're working, put your phone out of reach. You can do things like in the evenings when you're on your wind down routine, have a book on your bedstand and have your phone outside of the room. Um, some things like that, like make it easy to not fall into those habits that you're seeing. And then the other thing that you can do with the reels is kind of um, curate, is that the word? Your feed.
Curate, yeah.
Y- Yeah, yeah. So the way you do that is go search for the stuff that is not fluff. Like, go find reels that are educational, the topics that you want. You can even find the spiritual ones, the Bible-based reels. You can find the reels that are the personal development reels. Maybe it's a certain hobby that you're into that you can learn through reels. Like, go find those and get your algorithm, design your algorithm. That way you're being proactive and you're not just reacting to, because the algorithm will kill you, man. If it finds you in your lowest states and you're scrolling and you're tired and you start scrolling onto stuff you shouldn't, boy, it'll start feeding you that. And if you allow that algorithm to just continue feeding you, like your algorithm is going to be cooked. But what you got to do is try to get rid of the junk out of your algorithm. And the way you do that is click on the three dots and then say not interested. And whenever there's something that comes into your feed that's like not what you're looking for, click three dots, say not interested. Eventually the junk won't be in your reel. And then what happens is you go to Facebook and you're tired and you click on the videos. There's no junk in there. It's just not there because you've designed your algorithm proactively, and the junk's gone. And so that helps. And then there's just not that junky dopamine available to you. Like you've done the
Healthy
Atomic
dopamine.
Habits thing of just making it harder. Yeah.
Do you think that's a good format to learn, is reels? I mean, I guess if you're going to be watching them anyways, that's good advice. And you might be a little biased here, Joe, because you're trying to build a little reel empire for yourself. But
Well, I mean, dude, I went through that whole thing where I preached against it. I was like, these videos are going to destroy your brain, going to destroy your mind. And then I came around as like, well, they're here. and so
so I'm going to start making them.
You can't win them.
and so and I think they're just a part of our lives. And if you choose not to consume short videos, I respect that. I really do.
Yeah. I mean, it probably shouldn't be your main way of learning. You know, we need to read books, we need to watch long form content, listen to long form content. But you're right. I
But
mean,
but
shorts are here to stay. People aren't going to stop
but think
watching.
about it. Think about it. Like, we do a whole podcast and then AI picks out the best stuff and puts it into a short form video, and somebody can pick it up and just see the short video and get
10
like
seconds.
that nugget. And so if you're
And
short
it's
on
so
like
bad for the
reels,
brain. It's so
Yeah.
it's like it's not the way your brain is designed to work. You're not supposed to get this nugget from this person and then watch this prank and then get this, like, it's horrible for brains, isn't it?
I don't really know, but
Joe
like
pleads the fifth.
I don't have a hot take on that one, except I don't really I don't think reels are ever that helpful for me. So like what I do is, well, a couple more things. I don't really do reels on social media, but I do look at LinkedIn and stuff now and then just to see what some of the people I'm following are saying and stuff. I don't have my phone at the table most of the time. If I do, my wife is like, get rid of that thing. So it's just a little rule that helps. Um, so I'm not checking stuff at the table. But like I'm a big proponent of, I think reading is a really important thing. And I wonder if like people who are so used to just, getting these little shots of, you know, things that perk their interest here, and it gets harder and harder to keep their attention. They're gonna have a hard time like reading through a whole book. But I think reading through a big long book is a great discipline, from start to finish, even when it gets a little tough. Because it trains your brain to stay focused and attentive to something for a long period of time. And there's studies on this.
Mhm.
There's a book called Deep Work, and he talks about this too, where it's like we this is another part of personal development, I think, is how can we train ourselves to keep our mind focused and at its peak productivity or like creativity for, 90 minutes. It's hard because we're used to doing a little something and then being distracted and doing this, but that makes us much less effective. Whereas if we can train our minds to really focus on a problem or some learning or some work that we're doing, or even just reading a book, slowly we begin to build our capacity, and we can become amazing problem solvers. So I think Reels kind of
Hmm.
hinders that growth if you're stuck on them too much, and if you can't like just read a long book. But that's my opinion.
I mean, I think reels are probably a bit like ice cream when it comes to a form of content, and I think maybe Joe is saying, well, just make it sugar-free ice cream at least because people are going to eat ice cream, or make it marginally healthier ice cream.
Yeah.
And
Is
don't
that
eat too much of it. Don't eat too much. So you like the reels are here, but don't be on reels for an hour. Don't be on reels for 2 hours. Like be on you could maybe scroll through a few reels and learn some things, but I couldn't agree more with you on the book thing, Tim, and on it's called flow, right? Flow state, getting into flow state to really create and work and be able to like hone in our attention, and not just when we're motivated to do it, but actually be disciplined to do it when we don't feel like doing it. When there's a task we don't want to do and we're procrastinating it, can part of personal development is building the capacity, I think, to be able to focus on something we have to do that we don't feel like doing. And so I think, yeah, I agree with what you said there for sure.
Yeah, why don't we talk about some healthy habits that you guys have found to be super beneficial for you. He talks a little bit about your morning routines. Maybe we can start there and then just, kind of throughout the day, what are some habits that have really moved the needle for you guys when it comes to personal development?
Yeah, I feel like I've been kind of all over the place and up and down as far as actual implementation of good habits. But one that's definitely stuck with me, for many years, that's been very consistent, and I think it's been a building block of my who I am today is like that first thing in the morning prayer and reading the Bible. And then varying levels of engagement I've had with it. Like it's really great for me if I really, spend time meditating and journaling with it, but I've had a hard time being consistent with that. Um, Part of journaling can be like, what's my day like ahead of me? What are the top three priorities for today? And praying about it, like, what does God want my priorities to be, so that it's not just decided for you as you go through your day. That's really helpful. Just simply writing down my top three. Recently, I've started working out like very first thing, even before I have my cup of chai. So I get up, make my cup of chai, set it down, and then I'll work out for maybe 15 minutes. And that's like a variation of body weight exercises and some lifting some dumbbells around. And that just getting a little bit of a sweat made me feel a lot better and clearer minded. So in the last month, I've been doing that, month or two. Then the one that I think could be one of the most world changing habits that I have such a hard time doing is something that the old monk, Brother Lawrence, talked about, practicing the presence of God. So like back when I was in college, I was super overwhelmed and stressed out and anxious. And I came across this concept and started just having a conversation with God like throughout the day. And it really changed. It brought down my level of anxiety, helped me stay focused, and helped me hear God throughout the day. But like I get so easily distracted. But I think if we as humans can maintain the connection with the divine, with God, like as we go throughout the day and just talk about things, try to hear what God is saying in that moment, and just everything we're doing, just having this, because we have an internal conversation going on with ourselves usually anyways. Can we just have that conversation to turn our self talk into God talk, basically? I think it could be world changing. But man, I struggle with that one. I just forget. Then, I get to the end of the day, crazy day, and I'm like, oh, didn't even consult God on a lot of stuff today. So those are some, but I do try to do that, and varying degrees. Some days better than others. That's been really life changing for me.
Wow, I love that, Tim. That's amazing. I love that. I would love to learn to do that more. I think that's so good, and it resonates with what a friend of mine told me. I'll throw out another name here. Byron told me something about how, what do you do when you're praying and your mind wanders, right? Like, but then you can just take that, like, what it's often our stress, like what's stressing us. Our mind goes there while we're trying to pray. Well, can we just take that and talk to God about it? I think so. I think that kind of it really resonates with what you're saying there. And then too, like for me, I think a lot of my the habits that I've tried to build are similar in the sense that that morning routine. So for me, it's the push-ups, the squats, the sit-ups, and then the coffee. I put the coffee in the coffee maker the night before. It's already there, ready for me. So I wait to drink that until I'll get up and have a cup of water, and then I'll do my exercises, and then sit down with my coffee. And then I have a creed that I go through that it's got some scripture in it, and it's just got some things that I'm trying to remind myself and change some unhealthy thought patterns. So I go through that every day. And then there are things that are a little more hit and miss. Sometimes it's, uh, well, the things that I try to do every day are the exercises, the, the Bible reading, the prayer, and then more hit and miss is sometime more just like meditation, deep breathing, and journaling. I journal sometimes in the morning, sometimes I journal in the evening. That's a little more hit and miss. And also I try to think through, how am I going to show up for people today? Who am I going to meet today? And how can I show up in a way that I encourage them, and think through that. And there are a few other things too in the morning routine. And then other things, I think, at personal development, just maybe not so much on the habit level, but just personal development. Things like engaging coaches and therapists, like just working on myself. Like, what are the things? What are the things that I don't see in me, or what do I need help with working through? Um, Mentors, and I've just been so positively impacted in my life by so many wise mentors, and so forth. Like I just, yeah, have so much to thank a lot of people for, and I won't throw out more names here on this podcast today.
Yeah. Yeah, that's great. And I have similar habits. Well, for me, it's like I would say 50% of the time I get up early, and 50% of the time I get up when my kids get up. And so I'm trying to really change that, because I can tell a huge difference in how my day goes. But if I get up early, I try to get up at 6, which is about an hour before my kids get up. Make coffee and spend time journaling. So I just journal a few lines. Sometimes it's a prayer to God. Sometimes it's just like what's been happening last few days. And then usually I read a chapter, just one chapter of the Bible, and pray. Sometimes I'm pacing my terrace when I pray, or just in the living room. And then my kids get up, so I got to make them breakfast, get them ready for school and all that. That takes a considerable amount of time. And then I generally try to run 5 kilometers at least 4 or 5 times a week. So yeah, on a good day, I'll run 5 kilometers, and I'll usually listen to some kind of personal development podcast or book while I run. And yeah, those days that I get up early, so there's this older Sikh who also has his exercise routine on the same road that I do. And in India, they sit down and make some very interesting noises at times when they're doing their, I don't know what it is, if it's yoga or what it is, but anyhow. So I can tell, I thought about it recently when I went riding past him on my bike after it was one of those good mornings when I'd got up early, got my kids to school, went on my run, and I was on the road an hour earlier than if I had slept in. And I saw him at like the place that I would have seen him if I had been running right then. But I was like, man, I'm already on my way to work, and it felt like I'd kind of ripped the day off. I had I had gained one more hour, and it's not just gaining time; it's also, I don't know, it does something mentally for me when I'm able to get up early. So I kind of have my morning routine locked in, but the really big challenge for me is waking up at 6, because I mean, Indian culture is also like stay up really late. So, if I'm up till 11 or 11:30, it's super hard to get up early. So, but yeah, I've found that to be so transformative. Just, I mean, it sounds like we all kind of have the same things. Um, I love running. I hate working out, but I love running. And so I think you just kind of have to find what works for you.
I enjoy running too. I kind of quit it because I wanted something that I could just make a complete habit no matter where I'm at. And so the stuff I do is all body weight. So if I'm in a hotel room traveling, I can still do it. And it just helps my body kind of be in that like normal routine state. Like no matter where I am, I can get up and do this routine. So I think it's helpful. It helps me when I'm stressed, I think, to maybe I'm out traveling and I have meetings or whatever it is, and to be able to do that routine anywhere, I think is. But I like running. Like I would love to work that in, but then too, like here you got the winter, but where you're at, you can make running like a daily thing, no matter what,
Right.
which is cool. Love it.
Yeah.
Move to India.
Yeah. Well, yeah, moved to India. We're at 45 minutes here, so we're gonna wrap this up. But we really appreciate everyone who's been listening. We're gonna be having some
Yeah, we
guests on
love you
here
all.
soon. Yeah,
Hmm.
we're gonna have
It's
some
gonna be
guests on
epic,
here
amazing.
soon. So if you know of someone you want us to interview, or if you have any feedback, please engage with us in the comments. If you're watching this on YouTube or wherever, if you're watching a reel, then do not hit those little dots and what do you do? Say you don't like this? Please, like, watch that reel several times. Help us out on the algorithms. We support reels when it's us. So thank you all so much for tuning in. Thanks, Tim and Joe. We'll see
Yep.
you in
Thank you
2
so
Go
weeks.
much.
develop yourself.
Yep.